The soft hum of engines filled the cabin of Royal Sky's Flight 884, bound from Chicago to New York. Seated in 4A, a young black teenager adjusted the sleeves of his Yale sweatshirt, pulling a physics textbook from his backpack. His name was Jaden Williams, 16 years old, quiet, focused, and carrying more weight on his shoulders than anyone around him could see. His ticket, booked under the Diamond Premier tier by his father, came with all the perks: priority boarding, extra baggage, and, of course, a seat in first class. Jaden wasn't just any teenager. He was flying to compete in the elite Novatech STEM Challenge at Columbia University, sponsored by some of the world's top scientific institutions. As Jaden opened his textbook, preparing to review his notes, a stewardess named Brittany approached. Her expression shifted as soon as her eyes landed on him. Her bright professional smile faded into a tight, forced line. "Excuse me, sir," she began, voice soaked with subtle disdain. "This section is specifically reserved for our most frequent elite members. There may have been an error." Before Jaden could reply, another passenger appeared behind Brittany. A woman in her early 50s, dressed in designer clothes, a pearl necklace gleaming against her tailored coat. She tapped her Rolex and sighed loudly, glancing between Jaden and seat 4A like someone who just discovered a stain on a luxury rug. "I always sit in 4A on this route," the woman announced pointedly, raising her voice just enough for nearby passengers to hear. "It's practically mine." Jaden frowned, confused. "I reserved this seat," he responded, calmly retrieving his digital boarding pass. "I have Diamond Premier status through my dad. This is where I'm supposed to be." Brittany glanced down at the boarding pass, a flicker of surprise in her eyes, quickly replaced by something colder. "Yes, well," she said carefully, "we usually assign this particular seat to our regular patrons, those who fly with us often." She turned slightly to gesture toward the woman behind her. "Mrs. Harrington is one of our most loyal travelers." The implication was sharp and deliberate. Regardless of his status, Jaden didn't belong in that seat. But neither Brittany nor Harrington realized what they were about to trigger, because Jaden Williams wasn't just any kid flying to a science competition. He was the son of Dr. Marcus Williams, CEO of Synexus Innovations, a $3.7 billion AI company currently in talks with Royal Skies to overhaul their global booking system. And sitting quietly in seat 5C, just one row behind, was Alicia Dominguez, a freelance journalist with The Atlantic, equipped with a 4K camera, on assignment to cover luxury air travel. She had just stumbled onto a much bigger story. Without another word, Patricia Harrington subtly slipped a folded $100 bill into Brittany's pocket as she leaned in. "I'd appreciate it if you could help me out with this situation," she whispered. Brittany's eyes flicked to the bill, then back to Jaden. Her mind seemed made up. "Perhaps another seat would be more appropriate for you, sir," she said, pretending to be helpful, but clearly pushing him out. Jaden stayed calm. "This is my assigned seat," he repeated, not raising his voice, not backing down. He had been taught that dignity often speaks louder than rage. Other passengers had begun to notice. Some watched silently, a few angled their phones to record, and Alicia, never lowering her camera, caught the exchange and the cash. Moments later, Brittany returned, with a new player in tow. Bradley, the lead flight supervisor, exuded the kind of fake authority that comes from years of believing no one would challenge him. He leaned over Jaden, clearly trying to intimidate him. "Young man," he said, drawing out the words, "we need you to switch seats to accommodate one of our VIPs." Patricia stood smugly nearby, arms crossed, designer purse clutched like a trophy. Jaden didn't flinch. "I've shown my boarding pass. This is my seat. I'm not moving." Bradley's tone grew firmer. "This airline prioritizes guests who are long-term, loyal patrons, not just occasional passengers." As he spoke, Patricia handed Bradley another bill, this time a thick stack. $500s, Alicia's camera zoomed in to capture every detail. The entire section grew tense. A man in a gray business suit muttered, "Probably wandered in from economy." A few chuckled. Patricia feigned outrage, looking at her watch. "I have a gallery opening in Manhattan," she whined. "This is completely unacceptable." At this point, Bradley leaned closer to Jaden and whispered, "You can move voluntarily, or we'll make it official. Up to you." Most teens would have cracked under the pressure. The glares, the condescension, the subtle racism wrapped in luxury. But Jaden wasn't most teens. He was raised by a man who had built a company from nothing and taught his son to stand tall when the world tries to push him down. "I'm not leaving my seat," Jaden said quietly, yet firmly. Bradley flushed red and stormed to the front, picking up the service phone. Soon, the captain himself appeared, gray-haired, stone-faced, radiating authority. He looked Jaden over like a school principal called into the classroom. "My crew informs me you've been uncooperative," he said. "I'm asking you, as captain of this flight, to move seats." Jaden's heart pounded, but his voice remained even. "With respect, Captain, I have a boarding pass. I have elite status. I followed every policy. There's no valid reason to ask me to move." The captain frowned. "Continue resisting, and we'll have to remove you from the aircraft." Gasps rippled through the cabin. "Wait," Jaden said. "Let me be clear. I'm being told I'll be removed from this flight because another passenger wants my seat, not because of anything I've done." Before the captain could reply, Patricia interrupted with a dramatic sigh. "I've flown with Royal Skies for 20 years. I've never been treated like this." The captain, unmoved, gave a final warning. "Move, or we'll call security." Jaden, trembling slightly, pulled out his phone and began to record. "I just want this on record. I'm being threatened with removal for refusing to give up a seat I was assigned and paid for." Alicia zoomed in as Patricia leaned into the captain and slipped what looked like a card. Perhaps another bribe. Bradley lunged forward. "You can't record," he barked. "There's no federal law against filming," Jaden replied, steady. "I'm not interfering with crew duties." Just then, 2 airport security officers boarded, one white and older, the other younger and Latino. They looked at Jaden, then at the 3 crew members standing over him. "Sir," the older one said hesitantly, "we've been told you're causing a disruption." Jaden turned to face them. "Could you tell me exactly what rule I've broken? I'm in my assigned seat with my valid boarding pass. I've said nothing offensive. Is refusing to give up your seat now considered a crime?" The officers hesitated. Clearly, they didn't believe what they were being told either. "You're being removed for causing a scene," Captain Thornton finally muttered. Several passengers gasped again. One elderly black woman shook her head. A young white woman wiped away tears. A man at the back whispered, "This is disgusting." Jaden quietly gathered his things. As he stood, someone muttered, "He doesn't belong up here anyway." "But he didn't do anything wrong," another passenger protested. "I'm filming all of this." And then Patricia made her final mistake. She patted Bradley's arm and said, "Thanks for understanding what first class is supposed to be. Some people just don't belong here no matter what ticket they buy." Silence fell. Alicia's lens captured every word, every smirk, every dollar passed in secret. By the time Jaden walked down the jet bridge, Alicia was uploading her footage to the Atlantic Secure server, the title forming in her head. Discrimination at 30,000 feet. Bribes, bias, and boarding passes. Jaden texted his father, "Dad, I was just kicked off Royal Skies 884. I have videos. I didn't do anything wrong." Dr. Marcus Williams was in the Royal Skies boardroom in Chicago, finalizing a $75 million contract for his company's AI software. His phone buzzed. His expression darkened as he watched the clips his son had just sent. Then came Alicia's footage, then news alerts, then a message from CNN requesting comment. He looked up at the airline CEO, who had just finished shaking his hand. "I think you need to see this." The room fell silent as the videos played. Brittany and Bradley pocketing money, the captain taking a card, Patricia's final remark. Disgust and disbelief swept the executive team. "That's my son," Marcus said, his voice razor-sharp. "Removed from a flight for being black in first class, after your crew accepted bribes." Before the CEO could respond, his assistant burst in, pale as chalk. "Sir, we have a situation. The Atlantic just went live. The footage already has 2 million views. CNN, MSNBC, and BBC are covering it. We're being flooded." The boardroom froze, but for Royal Skies, the storm was only beginning.